I will introduce our judges. Mark Whitley from EMCO, Kelly House, Scotiabank, Jane Button, Scotiabank, Greg Sauter, Saskatchewan Roughrider, Ron Stiles, SaskTel, Mohammed Torshisi from U of S. Competitors, you have a maximum of 20 minutes to present today. Immediately following the presentations, the judges will have 5 minutes to ask the presenters questions. During this time, I will be timekeeping. I will give you warnings of where you're at during your presentation. And then in the 5-minute questioning, I'll give you a 1-minute warning and I'll knock on the desk when it's 30 seconds. That allows the judges to know that they have 30 seconds left. Audience, there's no questions, comments, cell phones, or picture taking during this time. Please ensure that your cell phones are on vibrate or quiet. Audience, you'll only be permitted to applaud following the question and answer period. There is no material of any kind or symbol that represents a competitive university allowed. Immediately following the presentations and the question and answer, we ask that the audience leave immediately. This allows the judges to be able to fill out their scorecards. Okay. 1 second, there's the to confirm that your Team F judges. And when you're ready.
Forestry, mining, marine, and farming. What do these industries have in common? They make up some of the bulk of Canada's economy, but more importantly, for Borealis auctions, this is the core industry that they take a part of, and through them, they're able to provide struggling businesses the financial clarity to sell their assets, as well as support Canada's economy by giving growing businesses the ability to buy cheap and available assets through their company. Now let's take a look at what Borealis auctions can do for your company by investing in them and buying them. First, we've identified some issues that exist with the company. Right now, you want to see a 30% revenue growth in the company because the past 3 years, the sales have been declining. This is something we hope to fix, as well as the acquisition and appraisal expansion. That is a current problem that we see and we hope to address. Secondary issues are some of the marketing strategies of what can separate Borealis auctions from all the other companies that exist, as well as retaining versus hiring new employees to help make these changes. And some considerations to really include are the industry competition that exists right now.
Taking a look at the industry, there is a bit of rivalry going on. There's 36 small businesses who do similar things to Borealis, and Ritchie Brothers, which takes up a lot of the room. They're a really big player in this industry, and so we thought that moderate rivalry was appropriate in this situation. For the power of buyers, buyers do have more of an opportunity now to go through private sellers and expand and be more independent in the sense, but they're still looking for the quality and share way that acquisitions and acquiring and auctions are all done professionally and well done. And so this way, it's a little low, especially for companies who are trying to liquidate fast. They are looking for the best local solution as soon as possible. Suppliers, in this sense, have a little more power and a little more leeway because they're giving more experience, expertise in this situation, and they can help with companies that need to liquidize fast, as well as regular companies.
All right, so we've taken a look at the industry, we've taken a look at the competition. Now let's take a look at Borealis, auctioneers and their organization. Primarily, firstly, examining their vision. Their vision hinges upon providing reliable quality, credibility, and honesty within a competitive industry. Maintaining this reputation, regardless of the path taken, is absolutely paramount to maintaining and growing your market share, which is a priority for Borealis, Moving on to goals, we could see a 30% year-over-year revenue growth, which will help recover from the falling sales from 2014 and 2015, while also providing a long-term, sustainable platform for growth in the future. As well, an aspect that sets Borealis apart is its flexible business approach. Customers are used to coming to Borealis with a wide variety of needs, and Borealis has been successful in its ability to adapt and serve each customer as its own entity. Moving to priorities, we see that this 30% year-over-year growth will be fueled by leveraging existing business relationships rather than trying to break into brand new markets without any established presence. And finally, looking at initiatives, this growth in revenue will be fueled by an increase in the quality of customer service, as well as a number of initiatives, which we will touch on shortly.
Now, let's take a look at what about a typical customer that comes to Borealis Auctions. Firstly, it's a small to medium business, which really separates itself from the Ritchie Brothers, which is the biggest competition, but as well as there's 3 other dozen companies that provide the same similar service to small and medium businesses. Now, it's also the heavy industries that come to Borealis, such as the forestry, mining, farming, and marine. What the customer values most is the trusted and fair appraisals. This is what Borealis has prided itself on for year after year, and it's something that we hope to see continue on. Other thing it values is liquidation. Now, when a company comes and is struggling, they value Borealis to help give them financial clarity and solutions to help them out, as well as they want the maximum financial return that they can get to make a solid relationship with Borealis and to really help their business either growing or the business that's declining. Now, moving on to some of our recommendations, we've set out 4 key criteria that we want to satisfy in improving Borealis for your company to invest in. Firstly, we want to exceed client expectations. By maximizing the client product growth, we want to make sure that their needs are met by ensuring that their liquidation needs are met, as well as they get the most for their product. We want to see revenue growth to satisfy that 30% margin that your company wants to see in Borealis, as well as to help reverse those 3 years downturn that has been going on the past few years. We want to uphold Borealis' company vision and keep that aligned with their trusted and integrity and honest approach towards their appraisals and their auctioning capabilities. And lastly, we want to see long-term sustainability. Since this is a long-term purchase for your company to buy Borealis, we want to see that this company in the long term will provide for you year after year after year.
Looking at the human resources aspect, there's an opportunity to eliminate all current staff and move into a new team, but this isn't profitable in the long run, especially when we're looking at long-term sustainability. These employees are able to provide expertise and management into this industry, which is very different and unique in some ways, and this will give them a chance to uphold the vision as well. Exceeding client expectations and revenue growth will go along with this change. If you remove all the current staff, the expertise and the management might fall short in the long run. However, maintaining the existing staff and hiring a few ones will allow more expertise to flow throughout the company. It will uphold the vision and make sure that long-term sustainability is in mind for this company. It will make sure that the company will be able to exceed the client expectations and provide what the clients want. And this will show into revenue growth.
Finally, let's look at the option of expanding the appraisal and acquisitions division. So right now, there's a couple options which will help fuel revenue growth. One of those would be increasing the price from the current fee of $300. While this would support long-term revenue growth, as it would increase the amount of revenue per sale, it does not exceed client expectations. Suddenly increasing prices for the same service may leave clients feeling dissatisfied and may lead them to go to one of your largest competitors, Ritchie Brothers, or one of the other dozen smaller competitors in the industry right now. It also does not uphold the vision of honesty, integrity, credibility, and reliability. Drastically changing your pricing structure without any notice to customers absolutely undermines your reliability for years and years to come. And finally, long-term sustainability. This relates back to the weakening of the customer base. If they feel that it's happened once, what's to stop them thinking it could happen again? That can seriously erode the customer base of this company and something that should drastically be avoided. A better option is to provide free in-house appraisals for customers who are willing to bring their equipment to the site. While the fee charged is fairly nominal right now and contributes a small amount to revenue, Discounting this helps lock in the business from those customers, especially if they can save on the transportation costs that Borealis is currently incurring having to travel to these sites. As well, moving more into the online space, providing some type of online capability for people to get customers to get rough quotes on their equipment, help streamline the entire customer process.
Now, on that note on online capabilities, we want to see Borealis move into the online auction industry. This is something that their biggest competitor, Ritchie Brothers, is maximizing in, and it's something that Borealis needs to move into to take advantage of that growing industry. Now, with Ritchie Brothers focusing on larger companies, Borealis has the opportunity to focus on the smaller to medium scale companies and take those sales away from them and make sure that the sales are in turn taken to Borealis and seen higher and higher. This will exceed the client expectations by allowing them to auction anywhere throughout Canada, as well as you can see colossal revenue growth because it opens up a whole new market and not having to hold the costly auctions and have auctions at any time online. It'll uphold the vision and through its integrity, as well as in the long term, online is the new go-to, and through moving to online auctions is something that we can see long-term sustainability in.
All right. So obviously, recommendation is to boost revenue growth, but specifically, how do we recommend Borealis increase revenue growth to maximize the gain for your company? First, as Ian mentioned, moving into the online auction industry, opening up an entire new market, serving clients on a platform that they've never seen before from your company, and putting you more on a par with your largest competitor, Ritchie Brothers. As well, pushing west to help expand Borealis' reputation in other provinces is key to sustain long-term sustainability for Borealis. Third, offering free in-house appraisals help expand the customer base, providing them with a new product and the faith that your company is willing to make concessions for customers if they're willing to make concessions for you. And finally, basing the online appraisal process, customers can submit photos online. That allows Borealis to provide a rough estimate of the value of that equipment, streamlining the customer process, and again, enhancing customer loyalty to Borealis Auctioning.
Looking at the human resources side of things, as I mentioned earlier, Borealis really wants to look into keeping the current employees because they have expertise and they can possibly go into training new employees on their sales strategies to keep the long-term sustainability of this company going, as well as creating an employee contract. As it was mentioned, there was a few instances where members of the organization went on vacation when maybe they shouldn't have. Providing more thorough guidelines for these employees will make sure that everything is serious and it will follow, as well as there is room to be an employee with morals and continue in the industry and with growth. As well as hiring an intern for customer service. This will give an opportunity to continue with this long-term growth that we're looking at for this company because it will allow an intern to come in, learn, gain, and expand on their skills already, as well as a possibility for them to work for the organization in the long term. Hiring a specialist will go along with what Ian talked about with the online auctions. This will just make sure that everything is run because in an online auction situation, a company wants to make sure that everything is done strong and well, and that there's no possibility of anything crashing and failing. Hiring a sales professional will allow increase in sales to occur and provide more opportunity for the experienced older staff to provide more training for these organizations, and thus to have more employees in the long run working for this company. Gardner mentioned that he wanted to stay in for 3 years, but 1 year definitely seemed like a more viable solution as he is getting to a little more older age, but he still has a lot to bring to the table. This is really important because he's able to shift the management into a new way of thinking and show them to his clients already. As well, SIMS administrator was mentioned, but we do not think that this is a necessary resource for the company at the moment. Because we're looking into hiring all these new people, it's going to have to be some leeway. And right now, SIMS administrator probably isn't doing a lot of work right now because SIMS' main task is to look into holding out-of-province auctions, which there isn't a lot of every year.
Now, on the marketing front, we want to separate Borealis from the other auction companies that exist. Firstly, we want to create social media events for upcoming auctions, so we want to create this a family affair. Now, auctions are something that have slowly become a growing, exciting thing in Canada through TV shows and other things. So we want to create these social media awareness for these auctions to bring more people out to see them, because auctions are exciting. We want to promote that. On top of that, the growing industry towards the social media advancement, this is something that we can get a jump on with Borealis to beat out Ritchie Brothers and other companies that haven't gotten a part of that yet. As well as, we want to begin cold calling businesses in the West about online auction services. Because of the declining Canadian dollar, a lot of businesses are slowly losing business for selling their products in the industry to the United States. So we can capitalize on those declining businesses and acquire different things from them or the liquidation services. So by cold calling them in the West, we're able to recruit their business early on and beat out the other auction companies. As well as we can place local ads in Western newspapers and magazines to get those same businesses and get their business before the other companies beat out Borealis. Lastly, we want to bring a new slogan to the table for Borealis. Financial resolutions and solutions from our small business to yours since 1985. Now with this, we think it can beat out the Ritchie Brothers' big business motto by going after the big businesses and their assets. Through this, it'll really separate yourselves. It will separate Borealis, as well as from the other 36 companies, and really make a change and an impact in the industry.
So based on these projected changes that we've recommended for Borealis, we believe that it was appropriate to revise the forecasted financial statements to show what these changes might do to the bottom line of the company. Basing it off of the 2015 figures, we can see our revised revenues approach $1.6 million. This is largely fueled by increase out west into new markets, as well as the sales training that will be brought on right away. Next, we can see the direct costs represent the same proportion of revenue, approximately 37%, leaving a gross profit of $1,038,000 approximately. Moving through, not many changes in SG&A and in that area, leaving an EBIT of $118,000, just shy of $119,000. Taxes remain the same, and net income comes out to about $84,000, just shy of $85,000, representing 5% of revenue. Looking at 2017, that's when the online auctioning platform really starts to come into effect and will really fuel growth in sales and revenue. As well, changes to the auctioning, the acquisition and appraisal division will help supplement that revenue growth. As we can see, this constitutes a net income of $344,000 projected, or 16% of revenue.
Enacting these changes is quite a bit of process, but there's a number of things that Borealis can enact in the near future. Gardner's one-year contract, as I mentioned earlier, this can go in straight away to let Gardner know that as his new management comes around, there's still security for him and an option for him to provide assistance with the new management. Relieving Sims as administrator from their duties currently. This will give more opportunity to hire more people in the future, as well as hiring new interns. Interns will be a great opportunity because they will be able to boost the company culture and provide that long-term sustainability we were really looking at earlier. As well, expansion into Western markets. This can come around in the year range, as we mentioned with the other ones, but it will still be dependent on the dollar situation and looking at the future option, as well as the online auction development. This will be a little longer to enact because it will be a pretty big process. This is not a situation where a company can go in straight away and do it quite roughly. It needs to be done with the most quality and expertise as possible. Looking at the budget, marketing ads and cold calling, as Ian mentioned earlier, this would probably amount for $15,000, and hiring 2 interns will be a zero cost because they are getting expertise and skills from this arrangement. Hiring a sales staff would be around $75,000. We did not include the hiring of an e-commerce online auction expert because we think this is a long-term option, and hiring a sales staff will provide more money and resources to move into this in the future.
Now, with all these recommendations, there's some of the risks that it may bring to the table. Firstly, being unable to hire the interns. We see this likelihood as being low, as a moderate, as well as the impact could be moderate. However, we can mitigate this through postponing the hiring process until we can find the interns, or, as resources allow, we can hire co-op students, which are eager and ready to work for the company. As well as a second risk could be the dollar bounces up and limits the Western acquisitions. Now, this has a moderate likelihood as well as a high impact. However, we can quickly reverse this and cold call these newly growing companies with a growing dollar and offer our sales service instead. And with that, we're able to, instead of liquidating them, grow these businesses and in turn grow the Canadian economy. Resistance from employees for the employee contract. Now, there's a low likelihood as well as a low impact. However, if this does happen, we can work with them to come up with a compromise and hear their perspectives on the situation. And lastly, if the bank rejects the loan for your company to purchase Borealis, you see this as a low likelihood. However, it could have a high impact. But one of the mitigations that we saw for this is the managers draw more from their own money expansion, such as liquidating Adam's lawn care industry. That way, we're able to make sure that Borealis is taken over and your company can acquire their assets and eventually their sales. In summary, we want to revise Borealis' valuation to $450,000. That's something that we see because of the declining sales. With that, we can use that $50,000 to add on for the new staff, as well as hiring new staff and interns while relieving the other one, creating a one-year contract for Gardner and general employee contract to ensure that there's proper steps taken throughout the company, as well as creating a future plan for online auctions and appraisals, specializing market for the target areas in Western Canada. And lastly, we want to rebrand Borealis with the financial resolutions and trusted solutions from our company, our business to yours since 1985. Thank you for your time, and we'll accept any questions you may have.
How did you come up with the valuation of $450,000 for the business?
I'd like to answer that. So they suggested a price of $500,000. We believe this was a tad high. Just simply looking at the top line revenue growth or revenue decline, from 2014 and 2015. Between 2014 and 2015, revenue fell over 25%. Between 2013 and 2014. Between 2014 and 2015, the revenue continued to fall. While part of this was explained with some of the senior management taking some vacation time in a particularly important sales period, this was still a large decline in revenue. So we believe that this shows some more deeper-seated issues with the company, and that a discount off of the recommended $500,000 was appropriate.
What is your plan for acquiring that financing? I didn't see anything in the presentation that really outlined collateral capacity, character, all those kinds of things when presenting to a bank.
So I'd like to speak about that as well. The equity, not the shareholders, the founders that are looking to purchase Borealis, you esteemed people, mentioned in the case that they're each able to contribute approximately $65,000 in equity, or $195,000 total. Based on the $450,000 valuation, plus some we believe additional capital is necessary to implement the long-term online sales platform of $50,000. That's a loan value of $500,000, subtracting $195,000 of equity, $305,000 total. As Ali mentioned, there are some assets that you currently hold, which could be pledged as collateral for the loan. As well, based on the more long-term strategy that we're hoping that we suggest you implement, we believe that the bank will be eager to lend the money just based on the long-term solutions that we recommend.
You talked about expanding into the West, and the West is definitely got some of its own downturns. Where do you plan to market, and how do you plan to move those assets to the customers purchasing them?
I'd like to speak to that. So moving into Western Canada, we're seeking mostly like Alberta, BC, because right now for Borealis, those industries they specialize in are forestry and marine, and those industries alike. Because with the downturning Canadian dollar, with exporting from the United States being at a low, we wish to move through marketing, through local newspapers, local magazines like Borealis already is for the Ontario area. We hope to carry out that same procedure in the Western provinces. And on top of that, we want to implement cold calling to some of those companies. in a sense to make sure that our business gets to them first before any of the other companies such as Ritchie Brothers or local Ontario companies choose to move in that direction as well. So we see that this is a prime opportunity to jump onto that before the dollar goes back up, and we're able to capitalize and boost the sales for Borealis.
So you're planning on buying, or are you
Well-
getting them to do commission-based?
Depending on each individual company, we can see acquisitions for liquidation potentially for companies that are seeking a downturn, as well as in turn, if they're growing, we can seek to offer sales solutions. But mostly for acquisitions or liquidation purposes, we hope to, or any sales that they want to give to us.
With a fair with 60% market share and many smaller firms. So this is a dominant firm with the competitive firms. That's what the market structure is called. Which means that the dominant firm will have a lot of impact on your profit margins. The only way you can deal with that is to differentiate your service, your product from the dominant firm's service. Now, given the new and increased demand for used farm machinery, do you recommend specializing in that area?
Well, we see with Borealis that there's many industries that they specialize in. So not necessarily specializing in one particular industry. However, with all the industries combined, we see adequate growth. But like you said, farming industry is a growing thing, especially with the exportation of the Canadian dollar decreasing from the United States. That is something that we can definitely see specialization in increasing, as well as implementing the same marketing strategies towards those companies through the cold calling and through the newspapers and local ads. Okay,
so you recommend, because of the exchange rate, you can you can have a market in the U.S. You can export the farm machinery to the U.S.
No, what I was saying on that is for the companies that are losing profits because they're not being able to send to the United States, Borealis is able to capitalize on their decline by acquiring their assets through the auction services and liquidation and acquisition services.
That's our time.